So I think that maybe he should change something about it, but I don't think that he will.
Yeah, well, did you know in 2018, June 20th, the president, Donald Trump, actually signed an executive order to put an end to family separations? So did you know that?
No, I did not. So I don't know.
What's up, guys? Drew Hernandez here with Lives Matter. I'm here at Cal State University, San Bernardino. A lot of people are blaming Donald Trump for family separations at the border. I want to ask students and see if they know that, one, that family separations has been practiced since the Clinton administration in the 90s. Also, I want to see if people know that Democrats, lawmakers in Congress, have the ability to provide legislation to end those laws. Why haven't they done it? And lastly, I want to educate students and let them know that Donald Trump himself, the President of the United States, signed an executive order June 20th, 2018 to end family separations. Let's see what happens. What is your opinion on the border crisis and the separation of families at the border? Do you think it's Donald Trump's fault? What's your opinion on it?
I don't think it's okay at all to separate families. Like, I just feel like to take children away from their families when they're like so young, I don't think that's right. And then to put them in conditions that they're in, the way that they put them, like with no good beds or like not a lot of food to eat, or like just the conditions that they're in, I don't approve of that, like for children their age.
So, well, the mainstream media has been predominantly blaming the Trump administration for that. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I guess I agree a little bit because it's his responsibility to, he's the one that's been in charge of all that, I guess, because he's the president of the United States. So I guess I would put a little bit blame on him, because if he saw those conditions, if his children were in the same situation, would he want to put his children in those specific conditions? I don't think he would. So I think that maybe he should change something about it, but I don't think that he will.
Yeah, well, did you know in 2018, June 20th, the president, Donald Trump, actually signed an executive order to put an end to family separations? So he has taken executive action as the president of the United States to put an end to family separations. Did you know that?
No, I did not. So I don't know. Then I don't know who's in charge of what's been happening around the border.
Yeah, the Trump administration has actually been taking steps to actually upgrade the facilities with air conditioning, better food, and that's something that's been taking place under the Obama administration. All the pictures you see online of people sleeping on the floor, and it just like looks really sad. Those are actually predominantly coming from pictures and photos from under the Obama administration. And the Trump administration has actually been attempting to update the facilities. And I don't know if you know this, I just wanted to give you some information. You could fact check me on all of this stuff, okay? As of today, from 2018 October, there have been more than 500,000 illegal immigrants that have been apprehended at the border. At least 200,000 of them have been single adults, and more than 50,000 have been children, and hundreds of cartels and gang members coming over the border. A recent DNA study was actually done on these so-called families being separated, and what was found is more than 30% of these families weren't even related at all. What's interesting is about 5 years ago, since 2014, the studies and the numbers that are coming out, the percentage of single adults, males, coming over the border with children was only 2%.
Oh.
Right now, you know where it's at? It's skyrocketed to 50%. And here's why. Because the cartels and the human traffickers, they take advantage of our catch and release laws. When an illegal immigrant comes over the border with a child, if they get caught, they get released, and they're given a court date, a slap on the wrist, to somehow come back and, face their court date to see, what's going to happen to them. They're never seen again. They take advantage of that law. These human traffickers are kidnapping children in Mexico as an excuse to come over the border to get released, caught and released, and go into the United States. And these children are either abducted from Mexico and into the U.S., and they're human trafficked into the United States, or they're left in the detention centers by themselves. And these are facts that are coming out in the federal government at the southern border, Texas, different areas. How does that information, if it is true, which I trust that you'll go look it up, How does that information really like change your perspective of what's happening at the southern border?
Well, definitely a lot since you say it's not that many like families getting like pulled apart. I guess yeah, it's definitely changed.
So would you say that it's unfair to say and blame Donald Trump for not taking action for the separation of families when he's already taken an executive action?
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, do you think this information is kind of like, whoa, I think as Americans we might be getting taken advantage of because these cartels are actually kidnapping children from Mexico and using them as an excuse to come over here.
Yeah.
Do you think we should kind of like second guess ourselves and say, hey, maybe we should take a look at this and see what's really happening?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
I just wanted to get you guys' opinion today on the family separations at the border. What is your opinion? Do you think it's Donald Trump's fault? What's your opinion?
He doesn't really take action. He hasn't really done anything about it. And it's affecting a lot of people, and he like doesn't do anything. He doesn't see it.
What do you think?
Well, I think as she was saying, he does play a part, but also he's not doing anything about what everyone else is saying. So, take for like people on Twitter, they're saying about how, oh, it's his fault, he's not doing anything. So I believe he has to kind of like listen to everyone else, other than just taking what, I guess, like the houses and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, did you guys know that family separations is nothing new, that it's been practiced since the Clinton administration in the 90s? And also, Democrats in Congress have the ability to actually provide legislation to change those family separation laws, but they choose not to because they need a political talking point to fight Republicans and fight Trump against. And lastly, I don't know if you guys know this, but Donald Trump in June of 2018 actually signed an executive order to put an end to family separations, and that was enacted in law last year, and it's pretty big deal. And I think to say that Trump hasn't done anything at all would be kind of wrong to say. I mean, when the president signs an executive action, an order to put an end to family separations, that's a pretty serious thing. Did you guys know that?
No. I didn't know that.
No, we didn't.
I don't know.
No, I didn't know about that actually.
Does that kind of like change your perspective a little bit?
Kind of. Like, I didn't know.
And you could fact check me on this. This is public information. You could see all the president's executive orders. It's all documented.
Well, it's because like everyone talks about Donald Trump, how he hasn't done anything, and that all he wants to do is like immigration and build the wall. And I guess that's what everyone thinks of him. So they didn't really look into the part where he signed, so that they could end the separation of the families. And that's why we don't think that. Like, we don't look at that.
What do you think? Does that kind of change your perspective?
From the very beginning, he was just considered racist. So, I mean, I don't know. He's still so for like the wall, and it's just like that's what started it all, I guess.
I wanted to see what your opinion is on the border crisis at the border and the family separations. Do you think that it's Donald Trump's fault? What's your opinion on it?
Well, initially everybody wants to blame. I mean, I guess you could blame Donald Trump because he is in charge of saying what goes on with what. And yeah, I guess I would blame him because since he tells them exactly what to do with the family and how to separate them, then yeah, I guess you can put the blame on him.
Since October 2018, more than 500,000 illegal immigrants have been apprehended at the border, and about more than 50,000 of those have been actually children. More than at least 200,000 have been single adults. And what's happening at the border is they actually did a DNA testing on the so-called families that are coming through the southern border, and what they found was at least more than 30%, they DNA tested them, were actually not even related at all. And since literally the past 5 years, since 2014, the percentage of single men coming across the border with children was only 2%. As of today, in 2019, you know where it's at now? It's at 50%. And here's why: because the cartels and the human traffickers, they take advantage of our catch and release laws. So what's happening at the border is they take children, they abduct children, they kidnap children, because we believe that they're bringing families over the border. But what human traffickers and cartels are doing is they're actually kidnapping kids from Mexico, bringing them over the border so that they can get a get out of jail free card when they come across. So they get caught, they get a slap on the wrist, a court date to return to, they get let loose in the US, never to be seen again, and the child either goes with them and is kidnapped and abducted and is put into human trafficking, or is left in the detention centers. And that's a high percentage of what's happening at the border right now. Some of these families aren't even DNA biological families. They're human traffickers kidnapping and abducting children. How does that like hit you? That's all facts, bro. You could fact check me. I'm not lying. I mean, go search this stuff on your own. It's all public federal information. How does that change your perspective, like looking at what's happening at the border?
Like it honestly makes you think, because like you hear one side of the story and then you hear another one, and like you don't really know if one is true or not. But then like now you're saying fact checks and everything. It's just like it makes you change like how you view things, because like it almost makes you think that separating and like keeping the children is good, but then like on the one other side, like how do you put it, like viewing like your morals, if you think separating them from their so-called families, but like they make you like they deceive us and say that they are family, and just to like how you said, just get a like slap on the wrist. Just it's crazy to think about it now. It really gets you thinking.
Yeah, so does that change your perspective a little bit?
So yeah.
Family separations at the border, do you think that it's Donald Trump's fault, or what's your opinion on it?
My opinion on it, I don't think it's right, like how they separate families from each other. Like if you're at least going to keep them somewhere, you should at least keep them together, you know, so they're not going through even more stress than they're already going to. I think it's partially on Trump's fault, because he's the one overseeing all of it, so he should be the one controlling and monitoring it in a way.
So did you know that family separations was actually enacted and being practiced since the Clinton administration in '97?
No, I did not know that.
So it's really nothing new. But did you also know that Congress has the ability to legislate law to actually change those laws, but Democrats haven't done anything at all to do that in decades?
No, I did not know that, but I think what like helps spread the information about that is like with the massive rising of social media, like that helps get that information out there to people who like me, who don't really know all that type of stuff. So it really helps get that stuff out there to the public.
What's interesting is June 20th, 2018, Donald Trump actually signed an executive order to put an end to family separations. Did you know that?
I don't know if it's actually in progress of happening or...
Well, an executive order is pretty serious. Like when the president does that, it's kind of like, all right, this is what we're going to do. So to say that Donald Trump isn't doing anything, do you think that's right, even though he's signed executive actions to put a stop to family separations? Is it right to blame him, even though he has taken executive action?
I don't think it's... I think like to say he's not doing anything particularly is quite a bizarre statement, because sometimes he's actually doing some things to change, but he's not doing everything within his power to change it, because I know he has a lot of power to change the things that he wants to.
So would you say this little bit of information has kind of changed your perspective a little bit?
Yeah.
There's a lot of controversy going on at the border, family separations. A lot of people are blaming Trump. What's your opinion? Do you think it's Trump's fault? What's your opinion on the family separations at the border?
The families have nothing to do with it. They wanted to come and like live a better life, and Trump just doesn't want them in here. And that's what I think. Like,
so you think that Donald Trump doesn't want immigrants in the country or families?
he doesn't want that for sure, because he said it a lot. So that's probably why.
Yeah. So do you think that Trump is against legal immigration or illegal immigration?
Probably both. I don't know, but I could probably say both. Yeah.
So do you think that he's been kind of like inactive or not really taking action, or hasn't been proactive at doing something about family separations at the border? Do you think he's just been kind of like not doing anything at all?
Oh no. Yeah, he hasn't like taken any action against like trying to help those families, because like there's the deaths and stuff, and there should be like regulations there to make sure none of those things happen. And I haven't like heard of those things actually happening, and they still have families in there right now. So.
Well, did you know June 20th, 2018, Donald Trump actually signed an executive order to actually put an end to family separations last year? So he has taken action. He has put in and enacted executive action to actually put an end to family separations. So to say that he hasn't, would actually be a misstatement and would actually be misguiding, because the president, and you can look this up, this is all public federal information, Trump has signed an executive order to put an end to that. So what do you think about that?
Well, I mean,
Do you think that's still in action, or is that taking an executive action as the president?
yeah, it's just an executive action. I mean, a signature is just a signature. You could do whatever after. Like, you sign a paper, you could sign a paper contract to college, and you can never even like show up to the college ever again. It's simple like that. But I mean, it's also like probably illegal or something like that, or like he.
Well, executive orders are legal, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that it's right to say he hasn't done anything? I think signing an executive action is a pretty serious thing. You don't just do that if you're not going to actually act on it.
True that, but
Does that kind of change your perspective a little bit?
yeah, in a way it does. But I mean, most of the media just tells you like one thing, and then you buy off of that. So.